rolling tumors to roaring lampooners, the Tigers on a Roll show starts in 3, 2, 1.
War Eagle, everybody, and welcome back to Tigers on a Roll. If you caught yesterday's show, you noticed the score bug was active during the Auburn game. That was wild. I was coaching and got in the car and realized that our game yesterday was at like 3 p.m., which really threw a wrench in the plans because I always record these live. And had the show notes written, last night and yesterday morning, and then just never got around to filming it for the preview. Work got busy, had to go coach. It is what it is. And that's the world we live in. But I appreciate you watching if you did. Always be sure to like, comment, and subscribe when you come across one of the videos. And we are on to a new day. And I am getting this preview up well in advance of the game for everyone that's interested. And yesterday was great. Yesterday was a big win, in my opinion, over Mississippi State. And it was what the doctor ordered. But I think the real gift came mostly from outside Nashville. You had the Tigers handling business for the first time in what felt like 2 full months of gameplay, with a 79-61 win over Mississippi State. And the bubble was bursting all across the country. Now in Nashville, obviously Texas lost to Ole Miss. And then outside of the SEC is where you had a lot of Auburn's competition to get into the tournament absolutely flounder, because we saw teams that I thought, and I think a lot of the experts and whatnot in Vegas thought were expected to win those games. You had Indiana and Texas both taking losses to sub 500 teams. And then you had a few games that were in like coin flip situations with Virginia Tech, Stanford, Cal, and Cincinnati. And they just couldn't get the job done either. And I think the one that everyone is talking about in the same breath as Auburn is SMU, who took an acceptable loss to Louisville and is certainly one of those, last team or, first 4 out teams. And just like Auburn, they're hanging on by a thread. I'd say that Stanford and Virginia Tech have effectively seen their at-large hopes die. That is official as of those games ending yesterday. That's my opinion. But every time one of those teams loses, especially like I said, SMU, the cut line for the tournament starts to move in Auburn's direction. And Auburn has been for quite some time, but is certainly right now sitting right on the edge. And even with some people keeping Auburn either straight up in their brackets or in the first 4 in, or in the first 4 out, whatever, it is still not safe whatsoever, even though that cut line is moving towards Auburn ever so slightly every time they win. And winning yesterday moved Auburn to 2 games over 500, which I think is an absolutely critical threshold that the committee will ultimately look at, and also recognize to some extent Auburn's success in having a season that ended up that way. I mean, for all Auburn fans and most NCAA basketball fans, that is not a good season. And if you ask anyone that's not an Auburn fan, it's not worthy of going to the tournament. But it is something that I think the committee looks at. And if they look back at the schedule, we didn't win, games we bought to win. We lost games against really, really elite competition. And I think that's going to be the difference maker here, especially if, which I don't think they will win tonight, but especially if they win tonight, that's going to do it. That is pushing the envelope. And then that is going to be something the committee looks at, and we will be in on Selection Sunday if that happens. And given the game against Tennessee, who dog walked us early in the season, Like today is the day that we can stop looking at what other teams are doing, which we were doing yesterday after the game, especially because all these bubble teams started falling. That's written itself. And Auburn fans, the coaching staff, whatever, bracketologists even, today is the day when we can stop looking at what those teams are doing or what they did or whatever and just grab the steering wheel and drive the car of destiny ourselves. Tennessee killed us, honestly. And this rematch with Tennessee is about way more, I think, especially for Stephen Pearl, than just what the bracket looks like going in the next week. It's a revenge tour, especially for the Pearl family. But that late July loss that we had, where Tennessee led wire to wire, like that is something that we are going to look to do to Tennessee. And to win this game, I expect Kevin Overton to keep up the solid play. And if you caught the show at any point in time yesterday, most likely it was after the game. But if you caught the show yesterday, I projected him to be Auburn's difference maker in that game and during the SEC tournament run, and he did not disappoint. I thought he was electric. He played with swagger. He was composed. Like he was everything that I said he was going to be. And he was absolutely electric yesterday and had, I think it was 6 threes and then, which was essentially the difference in the game. Like he was scoring on the plays that he needed to score on. And it looked like the spark plug that the Auburn offense has been missing during their 2-8 stretch that they had to end the regular season. He was the guy and he stepped up and he did it. But today, the issue is that Tennessee is one of the best teams in the country in, I think most people's opinion. And they lead the country, the entire country, not just the SEC, in offensive rebounding percentage. And that is where they absolutely killed us last time because we just don't have the guys to go up and get those. They won the board battle like 46-30 when we matched up with them in the regular season. And we can absolutely not afford to give them, 3 or 4 looks at the rim to restart their offensive possession and take a couple more shots. And I think that is one of the things that we are going to need to focus on today is that if we can force Rick Barnes' squad out of their comfort zone, which is maintaining possession, we have a better chance at winning this game. And if you don't know this, today, Tennessee's superstar freshman Nate Ament is back against Auburn. He's been out with a right leg injury, but everything that I've seen up into recording the podcast points to him being back on the floor today. And he is an absolute stud. When we played them back in January, which we lost by 8 points, and started the late season slide that Auburn suffered from, by the way, Ament dropped 22 points and got 8 rebounds. He is an absolute nightmare matchup for this Auburn squad because he is 6'10" and we literally have no size. And if we find a way to disrupt his game, which again, we haven't seen since the last time we played him, we are going to have to out-rebound him specifically. And then, as I think is the point guard, Ja'Kobi Gillespie is an absolute stud and facilitator as well. And if Gillespie and Ament get, second and third looks, especially at the rim, we are going to be packing our bags for the NIT by 6 p.m. tonight. But if Auburn can dominate the transition game, if Tahaad can harass Gillespie out in space, and we can disrupt his rhythm, we can disrupt their entire offense. And that is something that we are going to have to do because he was incredibly mid. He was struggling at running their offense without Ament available. I think in their season finale was against Vandy, and he shot something like 5 of 22 from the field and 1 of 11 from 3. So if you can separate those two guys and disrupt the way that they run their offense, one of them struggles to perform when he cannot rely on Ament, and then Ament is going to want to execute on those rebounds. He's going to want to capitalize on his opportunities at the rim. And if you can separate those two things, you can potentially make neither of them happen. And you can potentially, this takes a good defense, which Auburn doesn't necessarily have, but you can potentially pull out a win because you don't let them capitalize on the strengths of their offense. And on our offensive side of the ball, I really hate to say it because I'm giving a lot of credit to Overton. Murph has been really good. And Tahaad is looking a little bit better in terms of like turnovers and things like that. And he's increasing his assists. And I hate to say this specific part because nobody appreciates this kid anymore. But Keyshawn Hall needs to play like the all SEC talent that he is, which I'm pretty sure he got like second or third team all SEC or something like that. He has to play, he has to be that guy that he was earlier in the season. Because even though he's really sucked it up over the last few weeks, he's still averaging 20 points a game this season. But he has struggled with inefficiency recently. And I want him to, but the Auburn basketball team needs it, and the fans need him to just suck it up, swallow his pride, whatever his issue is that he has mentally or, this body length, suck it up and get to the free throw line, which is where he was, efficient from earlier in the season, and get some easy points for Auburn because we are going to be in an absolute rock fight. Which, by the way, Auburn leads the conference in free throw attempts, and it is mostly because of Keyshawn Hall being able to draw fouls and get there. So it's not like that is some sort of brand new scheme that we're going to need to run in our offense. Like, he should be very comfortable getting fouled and making those shots like from the charity stripe and adding, 1 point at a time to Auburn's side of the scoreboard. Because this is a game that is not necessarily an X's and O's matchup, as it is just a pure game of will and want. Does Auburn want to win this game? Are they capable of willing and powering their way through this game to come out with just 1 point more than the opponent? That is all you need to win. If Auburn can hold them to like 1 shot per possession, get the rebound, and then let our guards go play out in space and disrupt Gillespie, I think the Tigers are heading into the weekend in Nashville. And more importantly, after winning this game, if they can, they also will be playing in the big dance. They'll be playing in March Madness, which still, as of this morning, not many people are confident that they will. And I'll tell you right now, if they do go play in March, if they make it into the bracket, people are going to be pissed. And they are going to start saying there's some sort of preferential treatment for Auburn basketball, which that's recency bias at the very best. But anyway, Tennessee is a 6.5 point favorite today. That's probably a safe bet for them to cover. I don't think Auburn wins this game. I think Tennessee, especially with Ament back, they're going to be solid. But you just never know anymore. And as much as I and a lot of other people were just ready for this season to wrap up, the Tigers will always have our attention, and it is never a bad thing to make it to March Madness. Obviously, we're in March already, but the actual tournament, the NCAA tournament. And today's game, you can tune in at 3 Eastern, 2 Central on SEC Network. I think, like I said, that spread favorites Tennessee. That's probably a safe bet, but you absolutely never know. And like I said on yesterday's show, just Auburn being Auburn, lose 6 games in a row, 5 or 6 games in a row, and then you come in and you win the first day of the SEC tournament, and then you potentially have the ability to go upset some guys and go play into the weekend. And I'm not saying they make it to the SEC championship, the final game, but like, you never know what can happen. So tune into the game and see what happens. How about that? I appreciate you checking out the channel. I appreciate you watching the video. Please be sure to like it if you are watching it, share it with an Auburn fan, and subscribe to the channel. Please. Helps me out a bunch. Never charge you for anything. Do this for the love of the game. Sorry we haven't had more regular videos. Trying to get back into it. The law firm is crazy. Coaching in the afternoons is another whole thing on top of that. It is what it is, boys and girls. Tigers fans, I do appreciate you watching. Thank you. War Eagle, and I will see you.